Thanks, Acting Speaker. And today I rise to contribute to the Private Security and County Court Amendment Bill 2024, and I'm pleased that the opposition is not opposing this bill. But I would pick up on something that was raised by the member for Malvern. He raised the issue that the government's not upfront with Victorians. But I have to remind the member for Malvern that we went to 3 elections in 2014, 2018, 2022, and guess what? We got elected and got re-elected for 3 terms. So I think the proof of being up front with the Victorians has been proof in the pudding of 3 outcomes. So, and the other thing is, we had a greater majority in all 3 of them. So thanks for that. I'll just remind the member for Malvern of that. Acting Speaker, there's a lot in this bill. I don't want to go over some of the things that has already been raised by previous speakers. So I'll just touch on the focus largely around subcontracting and the improvements that this bill is making in that area. So subcontracting plays obviously a crucial role in the private security industry, allowing it to effectively manage surge demands, and we've seen that at many different events and issues that private contractors, security contractors have been utilised, as I say, during major events, and we need that surge capacity. Again with the major events, the Minister for Tourism and Sport and his team have provided fantastic events for us in this state, even though some people thought the sky was going to fall in after the pandemic, and of course that wasn't proven to be right either, and we've seen people flock to this state. And again, the private security firms were involved only this week with the ASEAN conference being here in Melbourne, and I send my thanks out to the private security workers who do a hard job, and they do a very good job under, in some circumstances, trying circumstances, and very, very much under pressure at times. So this bill allows for proper oversight where people hiring security services have no insight into who is performing the work or whether subcontracting has occurred at all. And this lack of transparency can lead to providers prioritising profit over quality. And that results in the hiring of underqualified workers at very low wages sometimes, and without adequate vetting of their qualifications or experience, which unfortunately we've seen that around the country. And it's clear that sometimes there is exploitation of some of these workers and the lowering of some of the standards, and that's something that we want to improve. It's many of these private security workers are very professional in their jobs, but there are some that are put under enormous pressures by some very ordinary companies, and I'm not suggesting that for all of them, but there are some poor operators in this particular part of the industry. And of course, any absence of proper vetting and any oversight in subcontracting arrangements can lead to accountability gaps when the inevitable issues arise. And many of these workers are casually employed, and in a lot of cases they're too scared to raise issues about working conditions and health and safety issues in fear of losing some hours of work. And hence that's how some of these operators get away with what they get away with. So this bill provides more stringent and stronger measures to avoid these sort of circumstances. It certainly mandates written agreements between clients and head contractors before any subcontracting arrangements are finalised. And additionally, it requires the provisions of licence details for all workers involved, ensuring transparency and accountability across the whole process. The provisions aim to safeguard against exploitation, as I raised earlier, ensuring that industry standards are upheld, and of course we enhance the accountability in the private security sector. As we've heard earlier, the Private Security Act 2004 stemmed from the tragic death of cricketer coach broadcaster David Hooks during an altercation with a crowd controller outside the pub down at St Kilda. I think it was the Beaconsfield Hotel. I know it well, and I do remember that circumstance where Hooksy unfortunately was punched and fell to the ground, striking his head and rendering him unconscious, and subsequently he was resuscitated by paramedics and taken to the Alfred Hospital. But I think he was only 21 years, I don't know, I'm not sure how old he was at the time, not 21, he was older than that. But unfortunately, a few days later, the life support was turned off and he passed away. And I will say about David Hooks, he was a rare talent. At 21, he made an impressive debut into cricket, in particular South Australian cricket, making many, many centuries in state cricket, shield cricket, and he probably put Tony Greig on the map by smashing Tony Greig all over the MCG. So it's a shame to see someone with so much talent have his life ended in the way that he did. And it was 20 years ago, to think that it was 20 years ago. And as I say, his head hit the ground and he was revived and was taken to the Alfred Hospital, and unfortunately the family had to decide to turn the life support off. But one other positive thing that came out of that is not only this bill, but he was an organ donor. And he donated 10 of his organs to recipients. And all 10 of those people are probably still alive today because of what he did. And I encourage, and I'm an organ donor, and I'm sure there's many, many others in this chamber that are organ donors. And I would encourage as many people to get on the organ donation site and sign up, because it just goes to show, out of one tragedy in David Hooks being killed, 10 people survived. And without his death, even though it was unfortunate, probably those 10 people would have died in lieu of it. So I do encourage people to become organ donors. And of course, while I'm talking about cricket, I've just got to give a shout out to the mighty St Anthony Saints Cricket Club, who play their grand final this Saturday. And of course, they're one of our little junior clubs out at Melton, and they're playing against Aintree. I don't think the member for Koroit's here at the moment. And then of course, the Jensen First are against Wood End at Macedon in the Club South competition. So in the next sitting week, I think, depending on who, that's all right, I'm coming back, don't worry. Depending on who wins that, I might have to avoid the member for Koroit and the member for Macedon when I come back, depending on who wins that grand final this weekend. So that's all right, there's no problems. Anyway, so again, this bill stems out of that tragic incident 20 years ago, the Hooksy incident, and this bill is about making sure we're tightening up the parameters around it and making sure that our security industry is accountable and is of professional standard, appropriate professional standards. And these security workers should be trained to an appropriate level to diffuse situations and avoid some situations, and in some cases not provoke some situations. And that's probably one of the key issues with some of the security officers that are involved in the private industry. But again, I'll come back to the fact that there are some very highly skilled security personnel operating within our jurisdiction, and and do the best that they possibly can under trying circumstances. And it's already been referred to here that, in situations like hospitals, in private places, again, I referred to ASEAN, they may have to deal with issues of drugs, alcohol, substance abuse, as in, people being quite erratic and under the effects of multiple substances, and it can be quite difficult for them at times. I do appreciate the work that they do. The technical side of the industry, there's a lot of work that employers have to do in regard to bringing the standards up in the industry. Again, this bill and the outcome of this bill will assist with that. I've known of many private security guards because the union that I was involved in covered them, and I know the difficulty that they've had over many years in regard to lifting the standards and lifting the standards of their working conditions. And that is important because we want to attract the right people to the industry. So they need to be paid well also. So this is an important bill and I commend it to the House.